Alrighty, so this is another thing I wanted to talk about is private variables. So public and private. So these are called access modifiers, and we're going to learn about like why you would use them. All right, so let's say I've got a class called Circle. Let's say I've got like some sort of math app, right? So it like calculates like you can put the radius in of a circle and it calculates the circumference in the area. So just to kind of remind you, the circumference of a circle is pi times 2 times the radius of the circle. The area is pi times the radius squared. So circumference and area are both dependent on the radius. If the radius of the circle changes, then the circumference and the area of the circle will also change. So it looks like radius is sort of the main thing here. It's everything else is based off the radius. Once I have the radius, I can calculate the circumference and the area just fine. So I've got a class Circle. It has a constructor which takes in just one parameter, the radius. I set the radius, and then I set the circumference to pi. So you have this math library. See this math class comes out now we're seeing how classes are, how they're useful. This is baked in. It has pi 3.14159, etc., and then times 2 times the radius, and then area pi times, and then pow is an exponent. So this is x to the y. So this is like x to the power. So math.pow x y is equal to x, is like taking x and raising it to the power of y. So you get all these like cool little math functions you get from the math class. So we got this to area equals pi. So now you're probably thinking to yourself, what the heck is this private stuff? Okay, so a private variable, okay, is basically means that this variable here, not variable, but like its property, is only available inside the scope of the Circle class. So remember, we have this scope, this yellow brackets here. That's the scope of the class. That means that the circumference and area variables are only going to be able to be recognized within this class. Outside of it, they don't exist. Let me show you how that works. So let's say I have a new circle. Okay, new circle. It takes in, remember this is the constructor. The constructor has one parameter, which is a number, which will be the radius. Say its radius is 10. All right, new circle dot circumference. See how there's no, I can't do this? Okay, property circumference is private and only accessible within class Circle, meaning that we're outside the class. So you see these curly brackets end here? We're outside the class Circle. I cannot access circumference. I can't do anything with circumference. I also cannot do anything with area. Okay, so that's it. I can't do anything with area, or I can't do anything with circumference. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, why would you restrict yourself like that? Like, why just not make them public? So the opposite of private is public. Okay, that's public basically means it is available wherever. So if I go like new circle dot circumference, see how it pops up? Okay, because it's public. Now I'm able to use it. Okay, but I made it private before, so let's go ahead and make it private. Okie doke. Now, why? Why bother with this? Because I don't want there to be bugs. Let's say I go ahead and do this circle, right? So I'm going to console. So I'm going to have to make some special methods to get the circumference and the area. So I'll make a method that says get area. Okay, and it's going to return this dot area. And then I will do get circumference, which returns a number. Return this dot circumference. So if you want to know this circle's area circumference, you're going to have to call one of these methods. That's the only in you have. So I'm going to console.log get new circle dot get area, and I'm also going to console log new circle dot get circumference. All right, so if you want to know the area circumference, you have to use these functions. You cannot call the property with dot notation directly because it's private. Let's go ahead and run it. Cool, we got some numbers. All right, now you're thinking to yourself, okay, Jonathan, but like, can we get to the punchline? Okay, let's say we made these public. Okay, now they're public. Now I can do whatever I want with them. I made a new circle. The area should be what, 31415, 314.15. The circumference should be 62.8. But now I can just do this. What's stopping me? Nothing stops me. Nothing is stopping me from making changes to the area and the circumference with dot notation. And now it should be 314, but it's 10. Right? Remember, the area and circumference are based on the radius. So I should not be able to just willy-nilly change them. So now if I run this, I get 10, 20,000, which is completely wrong. So by making these public, you're opening yourself up to possible bugs. You don't want anyone. The only way that the area of the circumference should be calculated is privately within when you're in the constructor. Okay, so if I do this, okay, now there's none of those shenanigans. Now I know for a fact that someone cannot come along and do new circle dot area equals 5. Okay, that's impossible. They can't do it. Doesn't matter if they want to, they can't. So now I know that when you give me a radius, I will be able to control the flow of information such that I can make sure there's no bugs. So if there is a bug, I know where to look to. It's going to be right in this get area section. It's not going to be somewhere else. All right. So that is how we do this. Right. That's why one of the main reasons to use private variables. I don't want them to be changed outside of the class. The private variable should only be accessible inside the scope of the class. Remember, the scope begins and ends with these curly braces. Starts here, ends here. So that means that inside this circle class, inside the scope, I can go ahead and use area and circumference. But outside of it, I don't want that. I want the only way you guys work with a circle to be do new circle and give me the radius. After that, I will do all the calculations myself, and I will ensure that they are correct, and that there's going to be no other area where someone could mistakenly introduce a bug by changing one of the properties in a way I don't expect. Okay, take a couple seconds to rewatch this to see if you can really get a sense for why this is useful. Okay, TypeScript is about avoiding bugs. Okay, JavaScript is a perfectly fine language to get stuff done, but all of this extra stuff we're learning is more about how to prevent you and the rest of your team from inadvertently putting in a bug, right? And so one of the ways in which you could do that is setting variables to private so that they're not accessible outside the class. Now, there are ways to get around private. I'm not going to get into them, but I just wanted you to kind of get that this accessibility of these properties is very important to think about, okay, in programming, because again, when we start building large apps with thousands of lines of code, okay, we use these techniques to lower the chance that we will introduce a bug that we will have to spend hours hunting down, and you don't want to be in that position. All right, so this is what private does.